All right. Had to restart the stream. Okay. Nice. All right. Well, go. Thanks. I'm glad you guys could make it. Yeah, what a mess, right? And it turned out I probably didn't have to reboot because shutting OBS down. Well, when I was rebooting and it was closing, was killing all the applications. I think when it killed OBS, it finally released the audio. OBS crashed as it was shutting down, and then suddenly my system sounds were working again, and I had a volume control. The issue was, like, I looked over at my little thing over here, and the volume control wasn't even there, so I knew the sound system was, like, gone. But apparently OBS takes that over when it's starting up, because while OBS was starting, there was no volume control either. So I find that interesting. Hopefully you guys can hear me. So, where was I? So database stuff. Okay, cool. So the other thing is some big objects that you can see from far away have a thing called a grid cell. It's a large grid cell. I probably just text it right. Large grid cell or something like that, right? Is that one of their components? And so, for a larger section of the world, the same distance you can see buildings and trees, it will ask for everything with a position and a shape and a name and a large grid cell, or not a name, right, but a large grid cell. Well, there's a interesting limitation in Zeus, which is the entity systems the entity system that I use, one of my open source libraries. When you do a query, you can only filter on one component. And so if you want to filter on large grid cell, then you're no longer filtering on position. And each of these may, the way the entity system is defined, each of these may end up in a database table. Position is in a database table, shape is in a database table, and it turned name is in a database table as well. They're all different tables in the same database, and then large grid cell also. But a component may not be, and so the reason I draw this separately like this is because the entity component system Zeus treats them separately. Like if you look for position, it will query for position from that table shape, and then it merges all of the entity IDs together. It does an intersection between all of the entity IDs it returns. But it's sort of a limitation of Zeus that it won't let you join between tables, because usually, and apparently it hasn't been a problem up till now, even tables with lots of values in load pretty quick, and usually you're filtering on the big one. Where I noticed an issue was crossing that world tile boundary. The query for large objects was sometimes taking a second or more. Mostly it's down to 100 milliseconds, but if for whatever reason that the database is busy or whatever, it would take more than a second. And that's weird because it's not returning anything. There are no large objects. And so I started, I did a lot of debugging and looking into things, and it was like one of those moments where like, why is the query that never returns anything sometimes taking more than a second? Well, first of all, I noticed that it wasn't looking for large grid cell first. That's the one it's filtering on. So I thought it was an ordering issue with how the how Zaius was being asked, like for components. It was asking for position first. And so that is true. That was a issue because essentially there's this loop where it asks for the first set of entity IDs that match the one thing, holds a set, and then asks for the next one, does an intersection with those, asks for the next one, does an intersection with those. And so by asking for position first, it was loading all 62,000 positions in RAM just to finally get to large grid cell and go, oh, there's none of them, and it would throw them all away. And so if you reordered this so that the large grid cell was first, it would see that there's nothing in the large grid cell table, and it would, or nothing in our area of large grid cells, and it would exit out earlier without loading position. But it's a larger problem because if there was even one large object, it's still going to load all 62,000 position objects because this is the only thing we're filtering on. We're not filtering position because we shouldn't have to. We're filtering on the large grid cell. So bottom line is I'm implementing proper joins now in the entity system, which should make a lot of people happy who have large databases. But I think it's amazing, even in the old server where people were dropping, the old Mythruna, same system in the old Mythruna, by the way, people were dropping objects all over the world and this never came up. So HSQLDB, which is the embedded database that I use for this persistence, super efficient, super good database. But anyway, so that's what I've been doing this week. But at first I thought it was just an ordering problem. And so I built in this mechanism into Zaius where you could specify like a query analyzer or a filter analyzer, and it would tell you, so it would throw errors that this stuff was out of order if you registered a specific kind of filter that would look for that. And then I discovered that, if the backend entity update stuff throws an exception, that was being swallowed down deep in the thing, and it was killing the data. It was killing the network connection between the client and the server, which would eventually bubble up to the client, but it would just look like a bunch of network errors. And so the side effect of my wrong approach is that I fixed a bunch of things with error handling. So now if deep down in the entity component system it throws an exception, that will get packaged up and sent to the client, and it ends up as part of the information the client sees, which means it goes into my error reports that I generate, and so on and so forth. So I spent a lot of time this week designing how I was going to do joins between these tables because of the way the API is set up. And so the trick, right, is one, do it without breaking anyone else. Zaius has a decent amount of users, as I understand. Make the API clean and make it efficient and make it not harmful to components not using it. So it's just the tricky problem, and I think I have a design. I'm working through it and building unit tests and things. I'm doing proper software development. So it's going to take a while, but that's what I'll be working on this weekend. Tonight, what we're doing is... it killed all of my... let's recover all my documents. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. I also may have to end early tonight, depending on... Well, actually, I'm going to... So... my patrons are paying for my youngest child. Effectively, my patrons are paying for my youngest child to take an Uber home from work tonight, so I don't have to end the live stream early. I think that's the way it's going to work out. But also because my back really hurts and driving hurts. Okay, so portal blindness. That's that effect that we had before. Um, yeah, so I had to like shut everything down, and all of my windows are okay. So hopefully y'all are following along with what I'm dishing out. Let's see if this is going to run. So the idea, once you've taken that teleporter, as the world is loading in, the game mechanic is going to be that you're temporarily blinded by this portal effect called portal blindness. And I'm going to implement it as a post-processing effect, which should let me blend it with the scene, although I may have to order it in a weird way for that to happen, because I think there's at least one. I may have a post-processing effect that's wiping out the blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, so that's what we're talking about too. So portal blindness, we're going to add some parameters to the existing prototype. Create a post-processing filter. Test that. Well, you don't need to test that, and then integrate it with Mythruna itself. We'll do this testing part in the scripter tool. That's what I was just trying to run. But apparently, when I was messing with the material, I was trying, before the live stream started, I was trying to go ahead and set up the filter itself. And yeah, I've used a lowercase f instead of an uppercase f, and that's apparently a problem. Okay, let's try again. So I've made the code. Oh, right. Okay, we're good. So I've made the code in the portal to create the filter in the portal prototype stuff we're doing in the scripter a couple weeks ago. So it creates the portal blindness filter and adds it as a filter. But portals need a specific kind of setup, or not portal, post-processing filters. Like fog filter is what I'm basing mine on. And what is it using? It's using fog.j3md. So I believe that should be in here with the common metafs. Post fog, not fog, fog, not fade, fog. So yeah, so we need a depth texture, which will be how we get depth. Where'd our stuff go? There it is. We need this at least defined here. Okay, so that should hopefully. I was trying to get this done before the live stream started, so that you wouldn't have to watch me deal with this mechanical stuff. But boilerplate. But maybe it's interesting anyway. Yeah, so I'm like learning one thing at a time. How the things I'm still missing in my cobbling together of. In fact, we don't need like any of this stuff. I cleared most of this out when I made the portal effect that's used in the game for the portals. So basically trial and error, one thing at a time. I'm realizing the things I didn't add because I didn't just directly fork the fog filter. I was copying things over. And so we'll go quickly over what num samples. Yes, of course. So let's go back over to fog filter.j3md. So probably I need all of these things. We'll just go grab them all. And so we will replace these. Yep. And then the noise map is my specific stuff. And I'm pretty sure we don't need any of this other stuff. But I'm not going to remove it just yet, because why add problems? If this works right, we'll get a full screen Portal. Okay. Undefined variable noise map. But it's defined right there. Well, so the post-processing stuff is a little weird because they always use the post-vert. So let's see if we fix that, if that gets us further. It's like we may not need my... Did we do anything special in here? No, so it's totally fine for us to replace it. Can I just do this to comment that out? Which shader was it's complaining about this shader. Undefined variable noise map on line 122. But noise map is defined, so I wonder if it's just a regular material. Right. This part was not built into my post-processing filter, so it's not actually loading the noise map texture. I actually think I can... I think instead of this, I can say blindness material. So I can set it on the material itself. What did I need color map for? That was old stuff. That was from when I copied this from the wood shader we were working on previously, which I do want to get back to someday. What error are we going to get this time? Whee! Oh, new problems. Okay, so it doesn't like the fact that these are different. I got this stuff committed to Git anyway, so probably don't need to keep the commented out bits, but it makes me feel better. I do. Technique default must have the same number of languages for each shader type. Let me make sure. Let me just remove those. Oh, maybe it doesn't like that part, like the fact that all of these are different. Let me see if I think that fog only needs the one technique, and I'm gonna steal these two because we will eventually want those, so we can make things a lot simpler. Let's include this. We don't do... we'll leave those for now, and we'll get rid of all these. Because it's not a real object shader, it's a post-processing shader. So it doesn't need all the fancy object handling stuff. It's never going to be used to make shadows or glow maps or... Whee! Okay, so it must be using that material before it gets to the part where I've set it. So I'm going to have to do the right thing. And texture. Let's go ahead and load the texture. texture equals manager, whatever. Load texture. Let's see. Let me copy the code from here. Just okay. Texture, load texture, that texture, which shouldn't be hard coded, but it's going to be for now. Texture.setWrap. I think texture.wrap mode.repeat is going to compile. And then material, set the thing with the thing, and be happy. Be happy. Come on. Why I gotta take so long to do everything? Hey! Okay, so we have a post effect. It's not happy. No, can't think. Okay. So that's interesting. So that's 946. My script. Yeah, so this stuff is unnecessary now. This stuff is unnecessary now. Yeah, in fact, we'll set this back to true, so I get a grid. And the thing is, what I don't know is why I'm only seeing 1 pixel. But boy, that's you know, epileptic warning there. Okay, so let's look at fog.frag. So we're going to need some of this at some point. But for the moment, I'm just trying to see why my texture coordinates are not doing what they're supposed to do. So let's debug some things. In the frag shader, see, texture comes in, text chord. Oh, text chord 1. Yeah, that's not going to work. It's called text chord now. So let's please. Oops. Yeah. All right. Let's just replace all. All right. Save that. Redo that. Oh, boink. Oh yeah. Poop. I don't think we're going to get away from, unfortunately, restarting the app every time. We have to change the shader. Yay! Okay. So now we've got a full screen post-processing effect. If we blindness, I think if we do that, we can disable it. Yeah, so we've got our whole little scene here. I'm going to add some stuff to it, maybe to, where's my other portal script? Let's go here. So I'm going to add like something, like maybe I'll add the portal 2. Yeah, that's going to be confusing. Yeah, I like having this. And then, right. So we'll steal that because that's useful. And we will steal the thing that loaded the spirit hinge so that we will have something in our scene. And I'll need to copy that model over. So let's cd scripter, oops. Copy portal model, oh wait, was it portal models? Oh yeah, portal 2. CP-R portal models, portal 2 models to portal, portal, Okay, now I have models there. Oh yeah, even have a moon gate and a portal if I want to load it. Alright. Okie dokie. So then this should work if we save it. Boink. Yep. Okay, so now we have a little sample scene and we can play with making our shader do its thing. Although, unfortunately, we won't be able to. My experience with the filter post-processor is that it doesn't like having filters added and removed, although we can try that. Let me look up the filter post-processor. I think you can remove them, but my experience with filter post-processor is it does not clean itself up very well. So let's try removing and re-adding the filter. So if we don't have one, we'll create one. Else, we'll still create one, but we'll remove the old one first. And yeah, we clear the cache. Okay, so that should reload it. So let's see. Okay, we've got that. And so we can see if it's working by doing something like changing the color. In fact, let's go ahead and wire up. Yeah, so I don't think I'm using this one. Nope. Okay, we would change this to cloud color. We'll add another one that is background color. And we do need G-time. We need also a float for fade distance. M underscore fade distance. And so I think if we go and change yeah, okay, so this one should be the background color. This one should be the cloud color. So now we can control, if this works, we can control the colors outside of the shader. But this will let me tell if it's being reloaded because I'll either blow up or... Yay! Look at that! Black and white! Alright, so then if we want to keep our original colors, we would cut and paste this bit just for a second. And we would come here and cloud color equals new color RGBA. Used to be 0111 def background color equals new color RGBA. Temperature, and I know from experience I'm going to have to cast this to float. Temperature times 0.75, temperature, and then 1. That should do that, and then blindness. I think the way I did this, I didn't add setters, so I'm going to do this at color, cloud color. Background color. It's interesting, I had a meeting this morning, a teleconference that I had to do from my car, and so I brought my Chromebook with me to, yay, it works. I brought my Chromebook with me so that I could type meeting notes, and like, it's perched on my lap between me and the steering wheel. It's a weird angle. I'm typing all kinds of garbage, and so then I got it back and had to like translate. I had like GIGUR as one, and I had like, oh, that's figure, FIGURE. Anyway, it was fun, and so I get little flashbacks to that whenever I mistype something here. I think this is pretty. I don't know if I like the pink, but it needs to be a bright color. But I think that like a white, yeah, so see, I think this is probably better for portal blindness. I wonder if it should be skewed a little bit blue. What I should really do is red, BG red equals float 0.75. And then I can just do different things with it. Oops. So green. So hopefully you all had hopefully you all had good weeks. I did finally pull the trigger on a deal to get myself a MetaQuest 3, by the way. Oak. So I look forward to messing with that at some point. PG red times 0.95 is worth it. Yeah. Well, they had like a deal. It's you know, they have like Christmas deals right now, so I went back and forth on whether to get it. I'm like, I haven't bought myself anything in several years, so okay, so all that's good. Let's lower the red a little bit so it's more blue. Yeah, I think I like that. Maybe even a little more blue. I like it. That should work as colors. Yeah, I would like, yeah, I really would like to have Mythruna in VR. The whole thing is designed that way anyway. That's why I implemented the swinging hands, right? Because I imagined having VR controllers where we could actually whack at things directly. But there's a lot that would have to happen to make that work. Okay, so now we want to mess with depth. And so what I will do next is steal some code from let's just steal all this for a second so that I can have it next to where I am. I don't really understand what this bit is. But I will steal it anyway. So texture is going to be the okay. I'm loving this Skyrim in VR with all these mods. It makes the game not feel like a bleeded. Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I should do in my copious spare time. Um, Interesting. I played Skyrim VR on the PlayStation because I had the PlayStation VR. Yeah, you guys don't know, but my history with virtual reality goes back way, way, way back. Before we had GPUs in our system, there was a card that came out called the Monster 3D, and that was like one of the first 3D cards you could get for your system. But there was also this VFX1 virtual reality helmet that had like primitive motion tracking and could hook into this Monster 3D card to do the graphics, and I have one of those. Yeah, I was into VR way back in the 90s, so it's been really neat to see, how it's advanced and gotten like affordable for consumers and stuff. But I always dream of making a immersive VR sim, and Mythruna is in my mind that. Someday it will happen, assuming I live long enough. Um, so let's first do some. Don't play with my emotions. Yeah, like I've. Oh man. I've done augmented reality stuff. I've lost sleep thinking about all of the cool things you could do with VR and augmented reality. And really, like, the technology has gotten to the point where it's no longer like back in early 2000s. Um, I was doing augmented reality stuff, and we were doing like just some really simple things. We didn't even have the proper glasses with the camera on them at that point. We were just taking a camera and holding the camera up to look at the stuff and having like little objects appear on our desk. And I was imagining doing like first-person shooters where we'd go in the office at night, and you'd hang the special markings on the wall so that the game would know where the walls were, and you could like run around. Because even though all the lights are on, because you need the lights on for the VR or for the augmented reality to sync up with things. But in your view, it could all be dark because you could overlay any kind of lighting on the actual scene. You could overlay textures on the walls, whatever you wanted. And so I thought it'd be fun to have first-person shooter running around in the office, where we all looked like, Doom soldiers or whatever. Yeah, AR is weird because there are some problems with AR that are not solvable right now. To get to where it needs to be, especially with like pass-through AR, is never going to work quite right. Anyway, it's complicated. But anyway, I'm more interested in having Mythruna in VR. But I got to get the game working first. Because I make too I kind of make too much money at this point. There's no game company. For one thing, the game industry is super volatile, and I need like steady employment with decent health insurance. The other thing is like I would take a ginormous pay cut to go, down entry level in the game industry. I'm not sure my Viz Sim experience would directly transfer in the way, in a matters on a resume kind of way to a hiring manager. It definitely matters from an experience perspective, but yeah. But yeah, so I'll work on Mythruna, and again, like I've imagined this as a VR game from the very, very beginning. Like even before I made Mythruna. So the original idea behind creating an RPG in the first place, way back in the day, was to have a fully generated world I could run around in, and I imagined climbing ladders and all that stuff. I'm not promising anything because like all of that was impossible then, and it's only sort of even remotely possible now. And at the current state of the technology, even with PC pass-through, um, I think there will be limitations in the graphics, but again, I haven't played with it because I'm sort of waiting for it to mature a little more. I only have a limited amount of time to devote to things, and I used to like throw all of my energy into one thing. So back in the day, I threw all of my energy into 3D graphics and learned OpenGL and stuff like that. And I'm working at a little higher level now where I have to like trust other people to do the right things, and I'll use their libraries. And VR is kind of to that point. Some people have done JMonkey Engine integration with VR, so it's theoretically possible to run Mythruna in VR now if I was to configure it properly. Obviously the interface would have to change and stuff, so it's not like a just drop-in thing. But I get the impression that it's still a little dodgy. And my computer is not set up to run it because I'm still running Windows 7. I'd have to build a new machine running probably Linux because I can't see paying the Microsoft tax again. All right, let's get back to what we were doing. But yeah, I dream about this stuff. Like sometimes my insomnia is because I have too many things to worry about, and sometimes it's because I get on a imagination bent where I just imagine a certain technology or whatever, and then like in my brain run to its logical conclusion, like like crazy things. Right, there was a night I watched like years ago. I saw on my home theater downstairs. I saw the Speed Racer movie done by the Wachowskis or whatever. And I thought, man, that's just so crazy. You could never have real racing like that. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie, but then I imagined, but what you could have racing like that if you had remote control cars where you had motion tracked cameras in the car so that you could wear a VR helmet and you could look around inside the car and your control movements would drive the car, and you could have like scaled down versions. You could maybe add magnets to simulate gravity in anyway so that you'd have more realistic speeds, not scaled down speed, which is super fast. And then you could do some really crazy things like they were doing, driving up spirals. And I kept myself up like 3 hours one night trying to imagine how you could make that profitable and build a racing infrastructure. Anyway, just crazy things. Because as a gamer, one of my guilty pleasures is racing games. I'm not particularly good at them, but I really enjoy them. All right, so back to what we were doing. Okay, so I was going to steal this depth. Yeah, the flight sim stuff. What I want, so this is going to be weird, right? I think on the PSVR I played a like a modern flight sim, like jets or something. But what I want is to fly the biplanes, World War I. There used to be a old game on the PC called Red Baron. I think it was called Red Baron. Where you'd fly your little Sopwith camel or whatever against the Germans and shoot down blimps and stuff, and it was good fun. Really bad graphics, right? Because 320 by 240 back in the day. But I enjoyed the hell out of that game, and there's just something about flying, which is essentially a motorized kite, that I think would be really fun in VR. But I would want it to be like a realistic sim like that, not some of the arcade sims that come out. Anyway, so press them near far. Get color. Get depth. Okay, so getting color is getting the color of the original screen. And so if we do this in our frag shader, if we do this, we ought to be able to, let's call this screen color because then we'll know what it means. We ought to be able to mix this in with our existing color. Mix, oops. color, screen color, 0.5. Let's reload it and see if we're mixing. Yep, okay, so now we see our portal effect over top of our screen. And if we move around, we can still see it. It never changes as we scroll around. Yeah, so we got that working. Now we need to use depth to mix it. And so we will look over here again. Okay, what are they using? Yeah, but see, that's not what I want. Okay, so they take the depth. I think I can't just mix it directly because it's usually a different format. But maybe they've already converted it? No. Yeah, so see, that's not really doing what I want. Let's just set color to... Set color to vec4 depth, depth, depth. Okay, yeah, so we do get depth. Okay, so so close up. Close up is dark. So depth is farther away is... Yeah, so why didn't mix work like I wanted to? Farther away should have been... The screen color. Oh, that's why. Those are actually backwards. So this should do something like I want. Yeah, so as we get closer to something, it appears in our vision. And so if I take the that depth value is going to be based on see, the actual screen depth is going to be based on my far frustum value, which I don't think is passed in. Oh yeah, there it is. So if we get this, it will be fog val is the depth. Depth. Okay. I get it. So if we do this, raw depth. So this is using 2 over x. Oh, it's near, so near and far. So near is x and far is y. And so 2 times the near over the... trying to understand the math they've got going here. So yeah, I think it's a ratio times 2. Maybe let's see what this does. Whoopsie. Fog. It's near far. If oh, they said I see. They named it funny. Okay. So then we can do similar, in fact, but I'm going to change their that's wrong, by the way. But I'll frustum. I swear, like the Mandela effect, the word frustum has changed spellings many times in my life. I feel like sometimes it was frustrum, sometimes it was fustrum. I feel like, but it could be just my imagination. Okay, so I think this is similar to what we want. No. M fade distance, of course. I have made this Pepsi last a long time tonight. Mostly because it hurts to reach over and grab it. Up. And typos, the death of me. It says we got 6 viewers on tonight, so welcome everybody. Glad you guys made it through the... Okay, so we've got this set up, and it should be like cutting me off at 4 meters. Oh, well maybe it is. But a meter is one of these full blocks, right? So four of these little blocks. So we got 1 meter, 2 meter, 3 meter, 4 meter. Yeah, so let's see. But I kind of want it even, like, that's more intense than I want it when it's near. So let's see what we can do about that. I'm going to assume depth is between 0 and 1, which means if we depth times equal depth, or let's do depth equals depth times depth, that'll make a curve. So the near stuff will be a little... Is it still cutting off at 4 meters? Yes, it is. And now let's make it cut off at 2 meters instead, which I think is something I added as a fade distance. Yes, set fade distance. Okay. So we should be able to control blindness, set fade distance. Let's set it to 2. Okay, so now it's, yep, we can see even less far. But I kind of also want a threshold for maybe like right up close. You know, technically this is fine. Like it should have been gone by now though. This will do the job. So if you popped in through the portal and you're sitting here, you know, you can see kind of your immediate surroundings as it starts to fade in. Let's set it really small and see what happens. Yeah, so I should be able to barely see anything. I can see more than I thought I should be able to, though. let me do something else as well. So let's make depth equals step. Is it? I can never remember whether it's edge, value, value, edge. Okay, now we're not seeing anything. So what if let me look it up. GLSL step. It is edge value, which is I think what I put it in as, edge value. Yeah, so if it's I think that's going to be the opposite of what I want. Okay. Let's try 9.5. Reload. Okay. Alright. This is not doing what I want at all. Okay. Just making sure where we were in the first place, because I moved around at some point. So let's move someplace where we have something really, really close and some things semi-far away. So now we know what that's supposed to look like. And so if depth is small, we should have mostly everything else. And so we've got just a light mix. You can barely see it. Let me and 5 would be an even mix. Shoot. Okay, so this one's really clear, but I want it to be maybe this is not what I want. Maybe depth equals smooth step, which is probably edge value. So 0.0, 1.0 depth. Let's see what that does for us. Opposite of what we want, or it's see if it's 0, we want it to be screen color. Let me go back to this. Okay. Okay. So I need to decipher what this is doing because I think it's not doing what I want it to do. Right. Because basically raw depth was closer to what I wanted. Oops. I got to redo the things. Whoops. Crap. Spelled something wrong. Oh. Poop. Alright, see if anybody's talking to me. Okay. Good after evening. Okay. So let's move back to where we want to be, which is something with a lot of depth. So let me try to decipher what so this we can see what I was doing at least. Yeah, so it makes the far away look farther and the close should be closer, I thought. Alright, I mean, I really like what that does to make things look deep, but alright, so let's see. Yeah, so it is doing what I want, that part. This is probably doing it better. Yeah, so this is closer to what I want. But I worry that this 0 to 1 is based on like whatever the far frustum is set to. This kind of reminds me of old video games. Okay, so let's stand on the platform like and look at the, maybe I want to be a little lower. So we want to be able to see kind of what's immediately around us. I just feel like that far, maybe I will hard code that to the default at the moment. So raw depth, frustum far. So I know that I typically, so let's pretend that this is set to J Monkey Engine default, which I think is I may be setting my own defaults. And so this was taking the distance between those, multiplying that by the raw depth, and for some reason subtracting that from near and far, so it's inverting it. Why though? So let's put that back, see what that does. Okay. This is getting somewhere because everything up close has lost all of its resolution, which is kind of what I wanted, because then I can use the fade distance. So let's make a new fade to be max 1.0 depth over M fade distance. Is that what I want? Right. So when it's at fade distance, I want it to be 1. When it's closer to fade distance, I want it to be really small values. And then we will change this to, well, say depth equals fade for now. Lots of hackage. Okay, so maybe that's not what I want either. Oh, I set that really small. That's right. We need to set it back up big. Or bigger. So set it to 2, see what happens. Let's set it to 12, see what happens. No. Nothing good. Alright, so we're doing something wrong still. Because my math backwards? Oh, min, duh. I do that all the time. Use min when I mean max, and max when I mean min, and it always creates the same kind of problem. Okay, so that is not doing what I want. Oh, well maybe it is because I used 12 here. So what happens if we set it back to 2? Okay, yeah, we're getting somewhere. And so this is actually, whoops. Yeah. That's still awfully big. Yeah, like if we set this to false for a second, like this is more than 4 meters away. So something is still not right with the calculations. Depth is always a weird thing. Like so my math, well, I'm using their math. Okay, so let's change this. Let's use our own math for a second. Float depth equals, let's just say frustum near far times near far dot y minus frustum near far dot x. Yeah. Let's make it that times raw depth. What will that do? Blink. Whoa! Did I spell it wrong? Frustem. And I cut and pasted it too. I also didn't use the X, that would have been 0. Typos, typos, typos. I want to get this looking right before I quit today. That's not right. Let's see what the depth value is. Okay. That's not good. Oh, you know what? Let's set this back up to a big value because we supposedly fixed it, but we didn't. So if the depth is 4, or yeah, depth is 4, our fade distance is 2, and this is going to be 2, but we use the minimum of those. We always use 1. How big do I have to set fade distance before it starts looking like I expect? It's still not. $200? No, that can't be right. Like if I set this to 1,000, yeah, What I'm trying to do, these depth values are going to be based on the near far. Actually, I need to look and see what their get depth is doing. So let me look and see if get depth is doing any magic, because there's Yeah, so no shader libs here. There's a math you have to do on the raw values from a depth texture. So is it multi-sample? Yeah, it's just doing a straight texture fetch. So there's math you have to do, and somewhere I have this in one of the other. I sorted this out in depth of field. Ah, see, I broke the math down here. Why we're doing what we're doing. So let's steal this. And then we should get an actual z value in that case. Oh, and we can get a near far from the. You assume things about the shader. Frustum near far. Okay. All right. So first things first. Let's comment out all this garbage. Drink. Yeah. That's good. So the z buffer value, which is the raw z buffer value, is that. And then you do this magic, and that means we also have to come in here and tell the shader we want custom near far. And z buffer, and then we haven't set depth, so let us just set float depth equals z. See what happens. Oh boy. Oh yeah, that may actually have to have been set when the. Let me see if it'll work. I don't know if that had to be set when the material was first created. Nope. I did something wrong then. Not here. Depth of field. Just make sure I got all that. Oh, I got it. Never mind. I know what's wrong. I'm an idiot. You've got to actually. You can't just have it. You've got to define it as a uniform. So it's a vec2. It's G. Frustum near far. So okay, that's what it is. I hope this is even remotely entertaining. We could have been messing with database queries in SQL. I tell you what, if you had come to me when I was a young buck and said, by the way, this SQL you're learning in the 90s or the 80s or whenever, 90s, would have been 90s. This SQL you're learning, yeah, you know how primitive it feels? You're still going to be using this in 2024. I'd have thought you were crazy. Okay, so yeah, so let's divide it by 1,000 just to see something, because this is going to be always a very big number. Yeah, okay. Okay, so that's going to be big, and we want it to be teeny tiny. Yeah, I guess, you know, SQL's weird. What did I do before? I said depth z over my fade distance. Let's try that. Oh, that didn't do what I wanted. What is my fade distance? Oh, because I set it to 1,000. So let's set it to 3. Aha! See? I just had to go back and find my own math. Yeah. So see, when we're sitting here, yeah, that's the good stuff. And so now, let's vect, yeah, no, this is good. Okay, so we can see, I don't know, I find depth textures, just the depth view, to be really pretty. And I think actually it's kind of cool that the flowers turned out like that. I wouldn't necessarily have expected that. So as we increase this, we should be able to see our horizon come in and our grid. Yeah, so see. And so like I can control how far out the effect goes. I can suck it way back into real close to the camera. So you can just see the barest minimum of that. And so then we ought to be able to put this back like this. And we should see, oh, yeah. We've got to clamp that mixed value apparently. So depth equals minimum of 1.0 depth. Okay. That's kind of neat though, but not really what I was going for. Okay, there we go. So anything farther than really close is just that depth texture. And it should be such that different times of day, you know, so it should still blend nicely with like when it's dark outside. Oh, we get little glowy flowers. That's kind of cool. Directional shadows. So yeah, so anything far away. In fact, let's close that up. Oh, so something's weird still. We're getting some weird artifacts through here. I wonder if the Z buffer value is going weird. I'm maybe not going to worry too much about it. But let's go back and play. So let's put this back for, oops, let's put this back for a second so that we see this raw texture stuff. So the depth rather. So yeah, this will give us a nice clear indication on what's near and what's far. And so I'm going to play with the curve a little bit because I want the near stuff to be almost clear. I really want to end up being able to control that. So if we do this, what happens? Yeah, so we get, yeah, see that's better even still. I wonder if that fixes some of the noise we were seeing come through. No, it still comes through. But okay, I'm kind of okay with it. I think that's related to the. Let's turn on and off the. Can I flat shade? Yeah, so if I flat shade, it goes away. So it has something to do with the sky. And Mythruna doesn't use the sky. Oh yeah, that's weirdly. So this is exactly what I wanted. Is like this is really disorienting, because the portal blindness is constant as I turn around. It's supposed to kind of make you queasy, and for me it does. Like I get a little bit of vertigo because I've got this effect coming through that cuts out all of the far stuff. And every time I move, it's still in the same place. Yeah, this is good. I like it. I don't know about you guys, but I think this is going to be effective. So when you come popping through the portal and you just plop down here, as the world loads in, you know, this will recede. So let's, yeah, so let's see. So like you're here, and then, like I was saying, as the world loads in, you know, you'll see a little further away, and then a little further away still, and then eventually the effect goes away completely, and you'll just see what you see, and that post processor will get turned off. So I think this is pretty cool. Let me think about how if we have time to integrate this right into Mythruna. But I don't know what you guys think about it, but I think that's pretty close. I'm not sure I like the pink background. Let's put it back to something we can see. I don't know if I'm 100% a fan of the colors. They do what I want, but really that fog effect kind of calls for brighter colors, like you'd almost want the fog to be white, so almost like you'd want so maybe something like that's better, where the clouds are like the blue things that are coming in. It just makes the clouds backwards, and I kind of wanted them to be the dominating color, and they're already pretty bright. So what if you like the prior colors? Okay, cool. Kind of gives you that grayish magic. It's fun to watch though. I had it full screen at one point, just flying through the clouds for a while. It's fun to watch. But this aligns with the same graphic that's used on the portals themselves, which we could load in one of those portals real quick. Let me steal one. I think I added them at the end. Yeah. Oh, really? Cool. Better than I expected is good. Uh-oh. Asset missing. Oh, yeah. So we just want to say add model. Oh, but I bet they're going to be the wrong scale. Maybe. Or did it still fail? No. It ran it. So I can go less insane. See if we can find where it loaded these. Ah, that's right. They are ginormous. Because our whole scene is where did I set up the effect? Here it is. Our whole scene is the wrong scale, that's why. And so if I go back and copy these again. Alright, so now they should be loaded in the appropriate place-ish. Not exactly, but let's move them back. Yeah, okay. So now if we re-enable the portal graphic thing, because when we jump into the next one, you'll still see that particle effect in its center thing, assuming conditions are still appropriate. Oh, it's interesting that we're getting a weird, oh, because it doesn't write depth. I'm okay with that. The portals don't have depth. They don't really exist. So that'll be weird for your portal blindness. But in reality, you know, it's hopeful that it only lasts a few seconds anyway. The thing I'd like to have is a near far, so that I could like have no effect at all when things are close. Like you wouldn't even get like a slight fade. So let's see what that would look like. I'm gonna just hack it in for this for the moment. So that would be, let's say we had like a min distance, or yeah, min dist. What did we? Let's say let's make it always half the fade distance for a minute. And so then what we'd want to do is minus min dist over dist minus min dist. And that should give us a near area that's got no effect at all. Yeah, see. That's kind of cool too. And so if I made that a parameter, okay, it didn't really fix this problem here. Yeah, it's because depth is essentially infinite right there. But that's okay. The effect can't be perfect. Well, so when you first come in, actually, it's not going to have portals unless somebody's standing on the pad. You would have to run up to the pad. Because the thing is, when you jump through a portal, like if I jump through this portal, I'm going to end up at the next spirit hinge in the exact same position relative to the center. And so then I would have to turn around and run back up to here, and then this portal would appear again, and I could jump through it to go back to where I was. But when I first jump in, those aren't even going to be visible. So that gives some time for more of the game to load. Yeah. Okay, so I like this. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to hack it directly into Mythruna tonight. I did make my Pepsi last the whole time. So yeah, so I think it's shaping up. My weekend plan is to finish the database stuff. I was going to try to get a release out before the Christmas break, but I don't think that's going to happen because I've just got too many things I'm trying to cram in right now. The focus, I'll do another live stream next week. I don't know what it's going to be, but hopefully you'll be able to see all this integrated together because it's really close. And this is kind of my side project because I don't know about you guys, but I kind of feel like the streams where I have like cool graphics to show are going to be more popular than the ones where I'm digging through SQL code and making, you know, joins between tables and things. But all right, so I think this is where I'm going to stop it. Let me find my stuff. So once again, thank you. Please like, comment, subscribe, etc. I hope you guys have a productive week if you're working on anything productive, and I hope that leading into the holidays you have a great holiday. Yes, anytime you are in game. Okay. Thanks for joining, everybody, and I will see you next Friday or on the Discord. Thanks.